everyone, it's Gary Waterman here, former UK Police Constable. It's the 2nd of March 2025. Welcome to part 3 of my research in relation to Donald Trump and the Stargate project. We're on page 43 here, and we're looking at SoftBank Group UK. Now, this was one of the companies that was mentioned when Donald Trump announced the Stargate project on the 21st of January 2025. And this is Companies House Records. And all I've done is pasted the evidence into a document to make it easier to present to you. Please, you can verify and corroborate this information to see that it is true. You can do that by logging on to the Companies House registration system and following the evidential links. So on the left, we're looking at SoftBank Group Limited, UK Limited, sorry. And on the right, we've gone into that company and we're looking at the overview. Now, this was created in 1981, the year after the Georgia Guidestones were erected in America. And on the bottom of the incorporation document that we're looking at on the right here, you can see, although it's a bit blurred, you have Hart & Co. That links to the research of the World Trade Center disaster. And in the black writing below that is Jordan's & Sons Limited. That is one of the main fraudulent entity companies in relation to this international government fraud. And that was created in 1965. The year before the first satanic church was created or founded. Going into the people record, on the left we have TMF Corporate Administration Services, and on the right you can see we've gone into their record, and you can see that at the top there, TMF Corp, and we have Trident Funding Limited. Now, if you've watched my other videos that I posted today, you'll see I've mentioned Trident missiles. Okay. Now, Trident is the United Kingdom's only nuclear deterrent, supposedly, if it's even real. Okay, there's so much deception, but there's certainly international government fraud, and we need to keep that as the basis for everything because it does link everything. And here we are, we have Trident Funding Limited. We go into that company, you can see that it dissolved in 2024 as I'm exposing the fraud. 14th of August 2024. It was actually created in 1980, the same year as the Georgia Guidestones. I suspect that is no coincidence because those Guidestones relate to a potential upcoming nuclear apocalypse, according to the research. And it suddenly dissolved in August 2024 as I was exposing it. Within that company, you have this person. I'm not going to try and pronounce it. They have 132 appointments, and this is just to show the military connections. You have Altitude 2 Aircraft UK 1. You also have a charity, Age UK, Bidco company. And remember, the Freemasons are behind all of this, and they're very much about charitable donations, but they appear to be a money laundering front, a criminal organisation under a hidden facade of donations and charities, which of course there will be some, but they're there, I'm sure, mainly for the laundering side of things. On the right here, you have Typhoon Acquisition. Well, Typhoon is a fighter jet, and that has already been linked to the international government fraud and very closely to Exmouth Manor and to Dorset and Dorset Police. Moving down, you can see Mercury Funding Limited. Now, Mercury was a company that is involved in nuclear weapons, okay, and features throughout other research. On the right here, you've got Mercury Pharma Group. Okay, so you've got what appears to be a pharmaceutical group. So I've just gone into that one. Obviously, I can't go into every single one because we just wouldn't have time, and it's very time consuming. So here's Mercury Pharma Group Limited, and you can see they last changed their name in 2012. And you can see earlier it had a pharmaceutical name in it within the company, Gold Shield Pharmaceuticals Europe. So 2012 is an important year, it would seem, because it was when the Higgs boson or God particle was created or discovered, according to the research by CERN, the Hadron Collider. And it's going to tie into some evidence that I'm going to bring out next in relation to apocalyptic deceptions against humanity, tying in with Darren Brown. So here's Mercury Pharma Group Limited, and it's a fraudulent entity company, a criminal organisation, should never have been allowed to trade, and that's because on its incorporation document it has Jordan's & Sons Limited, which is a bit blurry, but it is there. It's the same company we were just looking at, And these are the same companies, Swift Incorporations as well here, that was used to start Export Manor Freehold Limited, the company where I was removed from for refusing to file forged bank documents. And the same director links to Virgin companies. So here's one on the left, Virgin Media Trade. Okay, this is important because Jeffrey Epstein's case and Ghislaine Maxwell, the research suggests that Richard Branson, who was the founder of the Virgin Foundation, was mentioned within the court papers. On the right, you have Clifford Chance. Well, that links into Max Clifford and therefore Jeffrey Epstein via the research on Max Clifford. And importantly here, within TMF Corporation, the corporation company, we've got VAT International Limited. So that suggests a tax link. Now, it's very clear that the taxation system is being used to defraud billions of people around the world in relation to this fraud. Criminal system, which means, of course, you can't pay into a criminal fraudulent system until it is safeguarded against crime. Very easily done through transparency. Okay, so we need to now stop paying all taxes, stop going to work, and use this as leverage to compel a change in the system, especially when this is facilitating crimes against children, the most innocent of all. So going into VAT International Limited on the right, those of you who don't know, VAT is value added tax. Okay, and this company was dissolved in 2023 as I'm exposing the fraud. And you can see all the different name changes. Yeah, it was created in 1995. If you've watched the last couple of parts of this, you'll notice that the Hackluit company, which links the intelligence agencies to Russia, America, the Fleming family, also the royalty, and to Ukraine, all to the international fraud. Well, that company was started in 1995 and they've just dissolved it last year. Okay, and this one was also started in 1995. So it appears as though that is a very important date in relation to this. On the incorporation documents, you can see it's a fraudulent criminal entity company. It appears through the forgery of this document. It's not very easy to tell from this, but it's different font, is faded, and the lines are removed. That appears to be a forged document, incorporation document. The same company also links to Commonwealth Bank of Australia UK Staff Benefit Scheme Trustee Company Limited. So this is, remember, an international fraud right around the world, particularly Commonwealth countries, but others have also had a piece of this because it's linked to the fraud and the taxation system. So this, when the Stargate project was announced, which was on the 21st of January, as I said, by Donald Trump. Not long afterwards, this popped up on my TikTok, okay, on one of my pages. And it says, Stargate IA is the start of the mark of the beast. And I've got to say that with all of the evidence that I'm acquiring around this, I've got to tend to agree with that. And if it's not, then they certainly are wanting it to appear that it is, if that makes sense, okay? Because we're talking about international deception here. We most certainly have a criminal fraudulent system in place that exploits and victimizes billions of people around the world, okay, through the forgery. So it's all deception, okay, completely deceptive. So I actually do suspect that artificial intelligence tying in with the Stargate project, because of the already other scriptural connections, I suspect that they are going to use this as their mark of the beast, potentially. Okay. So researching the word Stargate in Companies House. So just literally going into Companies House, search Stargate, and you get some interesting results. So you get Stargate Autos Limited, which we're going to look at now. And here's Stargate Autos Limited. Now, the first thing that jumps out on this company is it dissolved on the 14th of January 2025. Well, that's 6 days, before Donald Trump becomes the President of the United States. There is very unlikely no coincidence in that. And the day afterwards, the 21st, is when Donald Trump announced the Stargate project. Okay. Now, you can see this was incorporated in December 2020, but that's during the pandemic time. And interestingly, when we go into the Stargate company, we have this person, Peter Drake, who was, according to this, has a date of birth of 1972, the year after the World Economic Forum. And he links to some very interesting companies, and probably the most interesting one is this one, the Mothership Corporation Limited. Now, why is that so important? Well, we're going to come into it in a minute because it ties in with the drones. So here's the Mothership Limited, and that was also dissolved, okay, on the 14th of January 2025, 6 days before Donald Trump became the President of the United States. Now, this is very important. I'm going to try and explain why. So, in end of 2021, early 2022 is when I was making inquiries with Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. Okay, and those inquiries escalated quickly. I tried finding out what was happening from directors. One director in particular, Anthony Roberts, who was the acting chairman, resigned after I wanted to look at the bank documents. But we're going to go back a little bit here. So these are articles on the left showing that Elon Musk's brother purchased a drone company in July 2022. In fact, it says the 5th of July. Kimball Musk has acquired Intel drone light shows through his new company, Nova Sky Stories. Now, the Georgia Guidestones, so that was the 5th of July. The Georgia Guidestones that I've just mentioned were erected in 1980, as I said, and they were damaged on the 6th of July 2022, the day afterwards. Okay, now they were erected in America, as I said, and they were representative of the United Kingdom's Stonehenge, according to the research. Now, J.P. Morgan, who linked to the Flemings, have been involved in the archaeology of Stonehenge and the pyramids in Egypt, and we're going to mention that potentially in another video. So we have the drone company purchased on the 5th of July 2022 by Elon Musk's brother. We have the Georgia Guidestones on the 6th of July damaged, okay, in America. They're then removed. They represented a potential upcoming apocalyptic event in relation to potentially nuclear weapons, and they had an inscription on them stating that the population should be kept to under 500 million. Here's the Georgia Guidestones here, and this just confirms what I've told you. Please go and confirm it. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. This is after an apocalyptic event or a nuclear war. On the right here, the research shows, if I can zoom in, a man who identified it as Robert Christian published a book titled Common Sense Renewed in 1986, which described the ideology of the Guidestones. The author wrote, "I'm the originator of the Georgia Guidestones and the sole author of its inscriptions. I have had the assistance of a number of other American citizens in bringing the monument into being. We have no mysterious purposes or ulterior motives. We seek common sense pathways to a peaceful world without bias for particular creeds or philosophies." And Robert Christian. Now, the research surrounding Robert Christian states that, doesn't state, it links almost immediately to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, the same company that I was removed from. Here on the bottom, I found this quite interesting. It says, Fendley believed that the monument would become a regional tourist attraction. In 2022, 20,000 annual visitors were reported. That's the same amount of MKUltra documents that were declassified on the year that I was born. Now, that was the 5th and 6th of July. On the 8th of July that year, I approached Anthony Roberts, the acting chairman for Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. And here is the record within Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited for Anthony Roberts. And on the 6th, he became angry at me and he resigned, as you can see here, on the 13th of July, not long afterwards, after I had requested to see the forged bank documents, or the documents at that point, because he was the acting chairman. I later went on to receive two sets of accounts, one being forged, the other one appearing to show that there was over £167,000 missing by others, which meant I'd been defrauded. So remember, we have this drone company. Remember, the reason I'm mentioning this is we have the Mothership Limited company. Okay, the mothership. Well, that suggests aliens, doesn't it? Okay, then we're coming into these drones. Then you have the resignation, and I haven't got the date here, it's too blurry, of the Archbishop of Canterbury in November 2024. Okay, and I researched the Archbishop of Canterbury, and it links to the research which I've shown further down here somewhere. It's here, but it's not very clear. You need to have a look at the. Let's have a look. Let's go and have a little look at the document quickly, because it's a bit blurry where I've pasted it into here. So here's the research for the Archbishop of Canterbury, and you can see here the date is the 12th of November 2024, according to this BBC article. Now, the research from Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, I started with John Smythe, and the scandal is that he resigned because he may have been covering up sexual abuse against children by John Smythe that he was somehow associated with or affiliated to. So John Smythe research links back into the Freemasons pretty much immediately via Waterloo's into the same criminal fraudulent system. Okay, and then it ties into all of the same companies that I've been looking at. Is York Place Company Services Limited, which is now dissolving as I'm exposing it. It then has links to Ingenious Film Partners. We've already mentioned that in this video, linking to the Stargate project. Lex Auto Lease, which is part of Lloyds Bank. And remember, I acquired Lloyds Bank forged documents. And then Justin Welby, researching him, then goes into the same companies. He had links to the oil industry, actually, to those of you who didn't know. But Canterbury Diocesan Board of Finance, linked to Waterloo's again. Okay, so again, a Freemason link. Fraudulent company. Now, this evidence ties in with the evidence that I'm acquiring regarding the potential murder of the real heirs to the throne in Blackpool in the late 1950s, early 1960s, tying in with the Cray twins, who was associated with my dad's adoptive family, which is in Kent. Okay, it's no coincidence, all of this. And this links into the King's Academy, so then you start making connections to Prince Charles. Remember, we've come in from Justin Welby. So here's the King's Academy. Kent County Crematorium. Fraudulent, Jordan's and Sons. Okay, again, you can see on the right there. More crematorium. Now, of course, full control. So that means they can silence people. They can destroy evidence. And remember, the police are in on this. Okay, the police, the Freemasons. Okay, it's the worst crime I've ever been aware of. I have never met such criminals in my entire life of 18 years working for the police as I have identified within our own governments and within the police since. And I had no idea it was going on. And most police forces will not have, police officers will not have a clue. Here's Jordan and Sons again. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but there's then links to, again, JP Morgan via Justin Welby. Okay, we've already mentioned that throughout the research of Donald Trump. Fraud throughout. Here's the Fleming name within it. Either side of the World Trade Center disaster. JP Morgan funds. JP Morgan emerging Europe, Middle East, Africa. And this is when it links in with Russia. Okay, JP Morgan Russian. They changed the name, though. As I'm exposing it, you can see in November 2022, they took out the Russian link, realizing where this was heading, and changed it to that instead. Because they wanted the ability to create the falsified theatrical risk of conflict and utilize that in a way that will assist the narrative. It then makes links into connections to Exporn Manor Freehold Limited, Sherborne, and BlackRock again. BlackRock companies. This is coming in from the Archbishop of Canterbury, remember? But anyway, let's get to, and here's Schroeder again. We mentioned Schroeder. Thomas Kingston, linked to the royal family, was found deceased I've forgotten the month now. It was in 2024, early 2024. I suspect most of the royal family are actually not really bloodline royal family. I suspect most of them are imposters in relation to all of this fraud. Another, just on the right there, showing a company name change either side of the World Trade Center. And then it makes links to Jeffrey Epstein, Atlas Hotels Group. Jeffrey Epstein was linked to that in the Jeffrey Epstein research. HBOS. Anyway, we'll get back to the drones because I think let's focus on the drones. But you can just see vast amounts of fraud. As you go further down, it then makes links to another entry. They had 4 entries for Justin Welby, and one of them links almost immediately to the Rothschilds. This is another evidential research document that I had created in relation to the Iona St. Columba's prophecies. Now, I was directed to this information by people involved in the fraud in collaboration with Anthony Roberts as well. Okay, so they wanted me to believe in an apocalyptic event in relation to all of this. Okay, and we're going to come to why that is in another video, but this is just showing the start of the research in relation to the Iona prophecy. And Iona is the island off the coast of Scotland. A bit of research in relation to Columba. And again, the research then just goes into the fraud. It also makes links to the Flemings. And the Flemings actually lived, I think it was Valentine Fleming and Ian Fleming lived not far away from Iona. So this is just some of the research, and then I go into the company's house side of things and the United Nations petition in relation to the Israel-Arab War in 1948. This was the message, which actually it's on the other document, but I'll show it now, from Anthony Roberts on the 9th of December when I was going off track with the apocalyptic side of things. So they wanted me to get back on track. So this was sent to me. The end is nigh is a phrase frequently used in relation to potential apocalyptical and eschatological events or the biblical apocalypse. Research surrounding Iona companies, then linked back into Schroeder. See here, Schroeder's green coat. More Schroeder companies. Links in with Thomas Kingston. Climate change companies. The Damned United, bearing in mind we're talking about satanic elements in all of this. You now have the Damned. Portal Finder, this becomes important with Stargate. As we have Portal Finder. Spirit Europe. Fraud all the way through. Spirit Energy Southern. And then it makes links to Russia again, the new Muscovy company services, dissolved in 2024. Russian names and directors linking into oil and gas, fraud throughout. Links to Lindisfarne Island, which then ties into, again, people involved in this fraud trying to direct me to this evidence to lead to an apocalyptic deception, or them trying to get me to believe it was a real apocalyptic event. Complete deception, everybody, we're living under. It's just... And what I was really trying to get to was the evidence from the Archbishop of Canterbury leads into PKD Development Group Limited, with an address that ties in with the Madeleine McCann case. Further down, you can see here that it then ties in PKD with drone regulations and registration. Okay, so the management of drones linking into United Nations as shown in this information. Okay. Okay, so I had all of this information coming into me. I'm being directed to portals, to apocalyptic events, to drones, okay, and all of this sort of stuff going on by people involved in the fraud, okay? So it's linking back in to the fraud and the deception. And then suddenly, in November, after Justin Welby had resigned, you suddenly have all of these drones around the world, okay? So here you have 25th of November, drones. Mystery drones appeared over the US, Germany bases before drones appeared over 3 military bases in the UK. Again, another article, 18th of December 2024. And then, as I've said, I had the message from Anthony Roberts. So I was being directed to a possible staged fake alien invasion. Okay? And they wanted me to publicise that there was going to be an alien invasion and potentially apocalyptic events as well. But it's all linked into fraud and deception. And of course, because you have that foundation of deceptive financial matters and a financial criminal system, nothing else can be believed until we have the truth about what they've been doing financially. But going back into that Stargate company, so you had the Mothership Limited, okay, which ties in with the drone deception. I'd also been on a live stream and someone tried to suggest to me that there was a mothership actually on its way to the United Kingdom, to the world, or to Earth, and it would be here in about 7 years' time. Well, that ties in 2032 with a potential fake, deceptive, biblical event, okay, the 7-year tribulation from now until 2032. But you also have the same director linked to these companies, which I found interesting. Electric Voyager Limited, which again dissolved in January 2025. Special Forces Creative and Future Forever Limited. Now, there's only 2 directors in that company. We're looking at the Stargate Autos company. And we can see the second one is Paul Epworth on the left here. And he links to Pre-Music Limited and also to Universal Music, WT Limited. And they immediately link to Waterloo's, although you can't read that. That does say Waterloo's, which then ties in with the Freemasons. Again, on the right here, within the Universal company, we have Adam Barker. And Adam links to a company. I haven't got the first bit. Oh, I've missed a screenshot. But here's the incorporation document for it, which links into the fraud via Express. And then further down on it, Jordans and Sons Limited. Again, remember, we're within the Stargate Autos company. Okay, when you just search Stargate. The same director links to 54 Addison Gardens Property Management. Here's that company. And they also link to Waterloo's and what appears to be a forged document, incorporation document. And James Gibbon from that company then links to Flint House on the right. Now, why is Flint House important? Because that relates to the police. It's the Police Rehabilitation Centre, Flint House. And here it says Flint House Police Rehabilitation is a British charity funded by donations from those in the police service and their families, providing physical rehabilitation and mental health support. In fact, I know several people have been there. Funny enough, the same person who got in Prince Charles's helicopter went to Flint House. Okay, who when he landed at an event in Dorset, when I was policing. And on the right there, we're just looking at the history of Flint House. It ties into the Queen Elizabeth. So it's an old company, a charity originated in 1890. Flint House was opened as a police rehabilitation centre by Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, on the 2nd of June 1988. It was previously been a training centre for the Water Industry Training Board and later Thames Water. They're involved in the fraud, by the way, complete with a complex system of pipes for trainees to detect leaks. So we have a link to the police and the Freemasons again. Same director now going into 54 Addison links to EMI UK Holdings, or EMI here is fraudulent. And it's an old company created in 1931. And EMI Limited, formerly EMI Group PLC until 2007, same year that Export Manor Freehold Limited was created, originally an initialism for electric and musical industries, also referred to EMI Records, or simply EMI, was a British transnational conglomerate founded in March 1931, a year before CAPB Limited was created in its original name of Robert Fleming Co Limited, which is now called CAPB Limited. At the time of its acquisition by Universal Music in 2012, again, okay, this becomes important. 2012, The Apocalyptic Deception, Darren Brown and The God Particle being created by CERN at CERN. It was the fourth largest business group and record label conglomerate in the music industry and one of the big four record companies, now the big three. It also included Virgin Records, you can see here. And of course, this now ties in with the Virgin Foundation. And here we are, just to confirm that same director is linked to at least two, I've just shown two here, Virgin Music Limited and Virgin Studios Limited. Haven't done a great job on that video, but hopefully you get the sense of it. We'll go on to part 4. Thanks very much. Bye.